The Workers' Party of Korea oversees a vast penal system where suspected and accused persons, including children, are often unlawfully deprived of their liberty. Once detainees enter North Korea's penal system, many experience serious violations of their human rights, including torture, starvation, forced labor, rape, other forms of sexual violence, and execution. Some are not seen or heard from ever again. Korea Future is investigating evidence of human rights violations in North Korea's penal system so that international justice actors can begin to hold those responsible to account. In our first phase between March and October 2020, we independently documented over 500 perpetrators who are responsible for over 3,500 human rights violations committed against more than 700 prisoners in over 150 penal facilities. We are placing our extensive and growing repository of evidence at the disposal of justice actors to accelerate and support accountability. Select data can be publicly accessed and downloaded by legal practitioners, civil society organizations, researchers, and journalists at the North Korean Prison Database and our website. One penal facility we have documented is in Onsong County, North Hamgyong Province, located less than a mile from the border with China. Run by the Ministry of People Security, or MPS, North Korea's General Police Force, its function is to detain people who are undergoing pretrial examination and those who have been sentenced and are awaiting transfer to another facility. Little has previously been known about this facility. Using innovative investigative techniques, we have been able to independently document evidence of MPS officials and correctional officers detaining citizens unlawfully at Onsong County MPS Detention Center and subjecting them to multiple and overlapping human rights violations, including brutal physical torture, starvation, overcrowded cells, and unsanitary conditions that endanger detainees' health. The memories of the survivors and correctional officers who entered and left Onsong County MPS Detention Center are the only resources that help us understand what is happening behind its walls. Using digital modeling, survivor testimony, memory-based diagrams, and satellite imagery, Korea Future worked alongside former detainees and correctional officers to reconstruct the internal architecture of the detention center and to situate human rights violations described at the facility. Onsong County MPS Detention Center is made up of the personal belongings space, the front storage space, the CCTV room, 2 pretrial examination rooms, the section chief's office, 2 offices for pretrial examiners, a staff bedroom for correctional officers, a kitchen for detainees' food, the outdoor exercise area, a staff bedroom, and 10 cells. The figures in red are the correctional officers who are responsible for patrolling, transporting, and penalizing the detainees. We have documented that 7 correctional officers are stationed at the Onsong County MPS Detention Center. The figures in orange are the pretrial examiners who interrogate the detainees. According to a former correctional officer, this detention facility has in total 7 pretrial examiners. Detainees are first taken into a CCTV room that monitors cells 1 to 10. They are subjected to a strip search by correctional officers who look to prevent entry of contraband, and in particular, money, into the detention center. They are then taken by correctional officers to the personal belongings space where their items are confiscated. Money and valuables are rarely returned. Detainees must crawl through a door that measures just 1 meter by 80 centimeters to enter their cell. One cell typically holds 9 to 10 and upwards of 20 detainees. Cell number 10, however, holds fewer detainees as it is reserved for political prisoners. Detainees must sit cross-legged for more than 12 hours every day from 5 or 6 a.m. when they are awoken until 10 p.m. when they must sleep. This constitutes positional torture under international law and can have lasting health consequences. CCTV cameras monitor every cell and a correctional officer patrols at all hours to monitor detainees. Any movement or sound made by detainees results in penalties that often amount to torture, such as squat jumping, kneeling for protracted periods, and physical beating with fists, feet, and objects. Conditions in the cells amount to inhuman and degrading treatment and are expressly forbidden by international law. Detainees are forbidden from using the single toilet in the cell without permission from a correctional officer. Conditions in the cell are unsanitary. Former detainees reported the cells were infested with lice and filled with the stench from the open toilet. Although a former correctional officer stated that detainees were permitted to wash their bodies once a week with water from a bucket used for the toilet, former detainees reported otherwise. Personal hygiene products like soap, toilet paper, and toothbrushes are not provided. Detainees are responsible for acquiring these items to family visitations, but even then, they are not permitted to wash or do laundry. Detainees from each cell should, according to internal regulations, be escorted to the outdoor exercise area for sun and fresh air 1 to 2 times per week, but in practice this is not the case. Detainees receive 3 meals a day. The nutritional value of meals falls below international standards. Each meal consists solely of a small bowl of steamed corn kernels roughly ground with the husks and a bowl of soup made of boiled water and salted cabbage. According to one former correctional officer, by regulation each meal should be 150 grams. However, this is not the case for many detainees. Drinking water is not readily available for detainees. Testimonies from 2013 stated that detainees in each cell were provided with a communal bucket of tap water amounting to 10 liters per day for washing, flushing the toilet, and drinking. Recent testimony from 2019 documented that in addition to this communal bucket, each cell was being provided with a 1 to 2 liter bottle filled with tap water to drink. Detainees must get permission to drink water but are often denied or are only allowed to drink during exercise time, which is at most 5 times a day. Detainees must crawl out of their cell backwards before they are taken to the pretrial examination room to be interrogated by MPS officers. If they look up at a correctional officer, they risk being tortured. Interrogation is often devoid of due process and no legal representation is provided to detainees. Our evidence establishes that serious violations of international law have taken place at Onsong County MPS Detention Center under the watch of the Ministry of People Security, which itself is subordinate to the Workers' Party of Korea with Kim Jong-un at the helm. Given there is no path to justice for victims inside North Korea, there exists an urgent need to further investigate and preserve evidence of human rights violations in North Korea's penal system so that international justice actors can begin to hold those responsible to account.